Am I in the shot?
Sure are.
Am I bright? So autumn is here, and is it not just the best time of the year to go out and take photos?
The best for photos. All the colours, all the nice like sunrises, sunsets.
It is
always
my
looks good.
favourite season. I love the changing colours of autumn, and it's the best time to get some really, really cool photos. So what we did was we woke up really early one morning.
Really early. For us, really early.
Yes, before sunrise, and we wanted to go out and capture some autumn themed photos, and we did.
We sure did. So the plan for the morning was to create a cool autumn photo set. Obviously with all the colours in, we didn't really have any specific shots, we just knew we wanted to get quite a few shots that kind of covered the whole autumn scenery type
Yes,
vibe.
it was important to get those autumn colours in there, so like the oranges, the reds, we had to try and find some trees that were orange.
Probably add some moodiness into the edits too. So when we're out doing little photo walks like this, what we're kind of looking for is like stuff that stands out. Like obviously the colours, and the first thing we actually noticed was the red berries on the holly trees. It's not really particularly like autumnish, but it just looked cool.
Yeah.
The reds and the green mix was kind of nice. So snapped a few little photos of that and just looked pretty cool, I thought. Not the greatest shots ever, but we were just getting warmed up a little bit, and
It was still early.
yeah,
So obviously, when you think autumn, you think leaves, you think orange leaves.
you sure do.
But we were lucky enough to actually find leaves that were mid-changing. So they were like half green, half orange. Like, I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Yeah, it's still quite early, like autumn here, or at least when it was when we went out. So we were kind of right in the middle of it changing,
Yeah.
and we kind of thought it'd be cool to kind of tell the story of the like changeover
Exactly.
between green and orange.
So we snapped this picture of these leaves that were changing between the green and the orange colour, and it's just turned out so cool.
Kind of a cool gradient, just fades into orange.
The next shot that we got is, I think, a perfect example of that colour
Yes.
transition that you get between summer and autumn. So many colours in one photo. We snapped a picture of these ferns, which are of course usually green, but we got all the colour tones between yellow, orange, brown. Like, there was just
They're all
so
in
many.
there. They're all in there.
Yeah.
They were just kind of sitting like on the, I don't know, they were almost dead. Some of them were almost dead, but they were
Yeah.
just kind of in a little pile, and all the colours were there. It was a good spot, and just went for a pretty simple, straight down, kind of like a flat lay type shot.
Yeah.
Don't really know how you describe those. Straight down, just kind of a textury sort of shot, and I like it. Might be one of my favourites, if not my favourite from the day. Also spotted this massive cow in
I
the
actually think
field.
it was a bull.
Yeah, right beside where we were. Snapped a quick little shot of it. I mean, it's nothing special. It's nice framing. I don't really particularly like the lighting, and the sky's a little bit plain, but snapped it anyway.
And then as we were walking, we saw the reddest leaf just sitting on the ground. I have no idea where it came from. There were no trees around that had leaves of that colour. Maybe it came all the way from Canada because it looked like a Canadian leaf.
It's the perfect Canadian leaf. If you put that in the middle of the Canadian flag, it would just, well, it's actually white on the flag, isn't it? But it was the perfect Canadian leaf.
No, it's red.
Is it? Red. Oh yeah.
So we got a few shots of that.
And then we actually sat the leaf down on the ground, and there was like kind of like shells of like nuts that had fell off the tree, and they were just like all over the ground, and it makes a really cool like textury shot. It kind of looks like something you would have set up for like a product shot or something.
It does.
Set the leaf straight down again, shot straight down. I was just kind of feeling that vibe, especially from the previous shot. Looked cool. Went for a really moody edit with this one.
Oh my god, first of all, yes, let's talk about that edit. It is so moody.
It's quite drastic, but I feel like that's what it kind of needed to draw attention, because the leaf's so red, and with the background kind of like with a good vignette on it and it kind of being dark.
Yeah.
But like all those shells and stuff, little bits of twigs in the ground just worked pretty well.
The shot that we got with the top down, that's actually how we found that leaf. So like it represented that too.
It was kind of cool.
So as we were continuing just to walk around and still taking some pictures, we spied this little house just like sitting on its own in the distance with the trees, like the forest in the background and the mountains in the background, and it just looked really, really cute and cool.
It was just kind of cool, the framing and stuff and where it was.
Yeah, it just stood out so much in between all those trees, and there was like different coloured trees around it, and so we tried our best to get the shot that we wanted. I'm not sure.
It's decent.
It's decent.
I would probably like to go back and try and like, maybe if the lighting was a bit different, or try and angle it a bit different and change things, but it's decent. By the way, just in case you're wondering, if you're new to photography, or maybe you don't do photography at all, you're wondering why the hell we get up so early to do this. Well, it's because the lighting is nice and soft at like sunrise. It's quite low, and it's kind of more of a glow. It's almost like the equivalent of like using a softbox that we are now. It's not harsh, and especially when you're taking photos of like trees or leaves or stuff, and you want to get the colors, you don't want harsh light kind of beating down on it, and kind of makes everything. You don't want those
harsh shadows.
Yeah, and it makes everything look a little bit washed out too. So early in the morning or later in the evening gives you that like soft kind of glow, which will look better for these type of photos especially. Just thought I'd let you know.
I'm wanderer.
It is worth getting up early.
Yeah, I'm a wanderer.
Good song. Anybody know it?
So when you're doing little photo collections like this, one very important thing to think about is the type of shots that you get. So we wanted to mix it up between like landscapey, far away type shots, and then really up close.
Landscapey, far away.
Landscapey, far away. Wide shots.
Wide shots.
Landscapey, far away.
Same thing.
Wide shots. And then, of course, contrast that with some up-close shots.
Yeah, like just a variation of... It's kind of the same with the B-roll too. You want to kind of show the area, then show some close-ups, then some like real textury shots. And it's kind of the same with photography. When you make a little photo set, you want to kind of let people know like the area and then the real details.
Yeah, the details.
Like the fern shot, that's real close up.
Exactly. So that's what I had in mind when I captured this shot of the ferns. I got right up in there.
You did.
And I mean right up in there to capture the real detail of those ferns, and it turned out really cool.
It did. And because Christina shot this one in landscape, we uploaded it on Instagram as a split pic, so you can scroll across and see all the detail. We have done a video on this before, but if you would like to see us maybe explain it a little bit quicker probably, then drop a comment below and we'll do another video on it. And keeping with those textury shots, because it was so early in the morning, there was still like water droplets on the grass and stuff, and Christina got right in there with this shot. Really close up, really zoomed in on this like few little water droplets on the grass, and we did a really moody edit on it, and I really liked how this one turned out.
Yeah, it looks so cool. Look how crystal that water droplet looks. It's so good. So it's really important to capture those textures, get those close-up shots when you're doing photo collections like this, because you want a contrast between close-up and wide.
And when we're out doing these little photo shoots, it doesn't always really go to plan. The next shot that I was trying was of like a massive pile of ferns. They were all orange, looked kind of cool, and when Christina was getting the shot of the grass, I was kind of standing there like thinking how I could kind of take a photo of this, and putting it kind of all in focus, just I couldn't see how that was going to really look great just with the angle I was getting on it. So I thought maybe I could like get the nearest one in focus, and then it kind of fades off till just a lot of ferns kind of in the background with a bit of the glow from the sky coming in through the trees, and it just didn't turn out like I wanted. There just isn't enough separation from the close fern that's in focus to the rest. There's just too much texture, and I don't know, it was hard to kind of make it look how I wanted it to look when I was out, how I would have liked it to look. I couldn't really do it in editing, it just wouldn't come together.
Yeah, like to me it kind of looks a little messy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's just, you can't see the depth enough, and it's just kind of like, oh.
Yeah, the fern that's in focus kind of blends in a little bit to the background. Besides maybe shooting in like a lower aperture, maybe 1.8 might have made enough difference to make it stand out more, or if the sun hadn't been shining on the background of the ferns as much.
Yeah.
But what can you do? They don't always go to plan.
Exactly.
And when people are out doing videos like this and showing you their photos, there's a lot more photos that didn't go to plan as well. You just don't see them.
Yes, there's a lot of photos that don't make the cut. You just have to remember that. You're not always gonna get the bangers, as they call them.
And this one we did include because I still kind of like it. It could have been better.
So we wanted a photo, of course, that captured more of the area that we were in. So something that kind of told the story of where we are, and we wanted one of like the forest. The colour of the trees in this one is probably one of my favourites. We did also capture this shot with Chris in it as well, kind of walking in the distance. Sorry, but it looked better without you.
It did look a little better. I think it just looks, I don't know, it looks like a path kind of in the middle of nowhere.
It's like leading to
through
nowhere.
A forest. There's the roads like directly in the middle, just leading through. It kind of gets a little bit darker, and then you have like the mountain kind of peeking out in the background. So it's kind of got everything. We probably should have shot this in landscape too, but I don't think we did.
Work.
And then after we had snapped that shot, literally there was like a huge mountain right to the left of us, and I think it was you that spotted that the clouds were just kind of flowing over the mountain, and it looks really moody. It wasn't really that particularly cloudy of a day, but the shot I had in mind was quite a zoomed in, quite like a tight shot of the mountain, and it kind of makes it look like a really moody day. Past the tree with some like other trees and autumny vibes in the shot. Just leads up to the mountain, which has like a load of clouds over it, and it's probably one of the best kind of shots of like of that style of shot I've got.
Yeah, agreed.
Since we started taking these kind of photos. Quite like it. Turned out pretty well. Yeah, another little tip for taking photos, especially if you don't have a really wide lens and you struggle with like getting your exposure good, you have to zoom in a lot and you drop your shutter too low maybe to be handheld, or like to the point where you're zoomed in that much that it's quite shaky. James Pops is who's a photographer we've mentioned before on the channel. I actually brought a little tip up and it just makes a lot of sense, and I never done it.
It's
Our
genius.
camera has quite a grip on it, so you can hold it with one hand, and the hand that you're actually pressing the shutter with, But when you're taking photos like this and you're zoomed in and your shutter might be a little bit lower, literally just let the camera sit on this hand and then just use this one to kind of stabilize it and press the button, and you get way less shake.
Yeah, so instead of actually holding it with this hand, you're resting it on one hand and then just using this hand.
Very simple tip. For some reason, I just didn't do that before. And now I do it all the time. And it really does make a difference, especially when you zoom in a lot. And you zoom in when you're editing, you can see like a little bit of motion blur. It takes a lot of that out.
Yeah, so that's a great little tip for you if you're wanting nice, steady handheld shots. Sometimes it's not possible though, and sometimes you have to whip out the tripod.
So thanks, James Pops, for that tip. We're just relaying it.
So I think because we have such a zoom lens on our camera, we actually use the RX10 Mark III.
As we always say, an interesting choice.
An interesting choice, nonetheless.
But it's one we've had for ages, and yeah, it's got a crazy 24-600 on a small sensor though, so it's even cropped even more.
Yes, but I think we always, or at least we have for a long time because we've had this camera for so long, we always kind of zoom in or like zone in on certain areas because we know we can zoom so far to get shots, so we're not really used to taking wide shots or landscape shots.
It's something we're kind of learning to see, like the wide shots, because we're never really used to them with this lens. They're not really possible. We
know we can't get them, so we're like, let's zoom in on something.
Especially because we've done a lot of street photography and stuff, and you tend to be like tight shots are more what you would do with street photography. So
I feel like this shot is kind of like that. We also split this one into a split. Is it a split screen? A split?
Split screen photo on Instagram.
But it was originally a landscape. And it was
we took both. We took
we took both.
A lot of shots of this particular shot of the trees. Yeah. Mainly because when we were standing there, there was just so many layers. There was like kind of the foreground like shrubbery type stuff, and then there was like the layers of trees where it was like green, orange, green, then a little bit of the mountain, and then the clouds in the sky. So
that is the perfect word for this shot. Layers.
And that's what we seen. We're like, that just looks too cool. It was kind of more the trees that drew my attention to it the way it was, and layers just always kind of make a good shot. Another little thing that we did have a little bit of a problem with this shot was we took a lot of variations of it, and because the sky was pretty damn bright, it was getting a little bit brighter at that stage. The sun was a lot higher.
Yeah.
The clouds helped a little bit, but the sun was like, the brightness of the sun was kind of coming through them. And when I was editing, I realized that we had underexposed a lot of them, because we kind of were exposing for the sky, but because we have quite a small sensor in our camera, when I was trying to bring the shadows up in Lightroom, it was just kind of killing the quality of like the colors, the lower area. The colors of the trees in the lower area, it was killing the quality a little bit. I was like, I thought I exposed that quite well, but unless you have quite a big sensor in your camera, it's going to be harder to bring the shadows back when you underexpose, especially when it's that almost like a silhouette-y vibe with the brightness part in the background, if this makes sense. So what I'm saying is, if you have the ability to photo stack in your camera, choose that, and then it'll do 3 pictures, one the middle exposure, one like a step above, one step below, then you can combine them. I kind of did this myself when I was taking it. I think I used the photo where I photo stacked, or maybe the one where I actually overexposed, because I was able to bring the sky back. And what you mean by that is exposing for different parts of the photo. I just done quite a few variations, and I think I might have actually used the one that was actually like in camera overexposed, but because they're shot in raw, I was able to bring the sky back, and all the detail was still kept in the foreground and the trees. That's quite a lot, but hopefully it makes sense. Yeah. Take multiple exposures if you're not sure, so you can either combine them or use the one that works best. Hopefully that makes some sense to you. Some sort of sense. That's what I learned during this. So I think that's mainly all the photos that we got that day. I think we got some really, really good ones. I'm really happy with the collection that we put together. Before we finish, let's decide what was your favourite photo. What's my favourite? I think I'm kind of torn between the texture shot of the ferns, the straight down shot, just because I really like those shots, and I think they would also look cool as like a print or something too. Yeah. And then the shot of the mountain with the clouds above it, the kind of tight shot past the tree. I think those two, they're completely different, so it's hard to choose one of those. My favourite of the day was the red leaf on the ground, I think. Oh yeah, I think the edit of it is so good. It just stands out so much.
yeah, it was probably my favorite.
Yeah, there's some people go out and take photos and like it's kind of the photo they take is kind of the end result. I don't know if it's just because we've made editing such a big part of our photo process, but especially when we're taking photos, we kind of think more about how we're going to edit them a lot. Some people do, some don't, depends on the type of photographer you are, but we do. And with that leaf, the end product was kind of what I was seeing at the time, even though it didn't look like that. I don't know.
I know what you
I don't really know what you call that, but that's kind of the way we are with a lot of photos like that. Kind of have in mind how you want it to look, even though the photo's not particularly like that, and then editing's a big part of it. Let us know which one is your favourite out of that collection, and again, if you want to check it out, head over to our Instagram @MacandTeens. Drop it a little like and let us know which one's your favourite.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you enjoyed this one, guys, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. And is that it?
That's it, yeah. We had fun going out, taking some autumn photos.
And also, we did forget to use our action cam on top of our camera in this one. Apologies for that. We'll do it in the next one. You'll get a bit more POV stuff in there. But yeah, as we always say, take it easy.
Don't be a stranger.